Hey everyone, and welcome to the Beyond Life and Fitness podcast. I'm Cheryl Patton.
And I'm Megan Prince.
We started this podcast as a way to connect with more people who are struggling to fit it all in. The workouts, the food, kids, work, and relationships.
We know that we're not perfect, but we hope that through our struggles and our mistakes and our failures and our successes that we can help more people through their challenges and be successful. So if you want some tips and tricks to help you along your journey to be the best version of yourself, then this is it.
All right, we are finally back, and today, because we are getting into the holiday season, we thought we'd chat about managing stress through the holidays. I know trying to have like the perfect holiday can sometimes be the number one thing that really stresses or overwhelms people this time of year with all the planning, the shopping, the cooking, if you're hosting, if you're traveling to see family, or any type of family traditions that you guys do over the years can just not only be overwhelming but just leave you exhausted by the end of it. So I thought today that we would just chat about what to do instead, so that way you're not feeling burnt out after the holidays, but you're just feeling more relaxed and grateful for everything that has just happened over the holiday season. So I guess a question I could pose to you is there anything that sort of triggers you this time of year that kind of makes you feel more anxious or stressed out about the holiday season?
I don't know if there's anything that like stresses me out so much around the holiday season. I think when we used to go up to family like 4 hours away, and we had newborns and we had dogs and we had 3 kids, and we would go from one family to the next, to the next, to the next. And I think over the last 2 years, it's really changed in how we celebrate our holidays, which is actually sort of nice, because then we're not traveling all over the place. We would just sleep in. When you're traveling with kids, it's super hard when you're staying at people's houses because nobody sleeps right. You're always tired. So I think nothing stresses me out so much. I think around the holidays really is just like making sure, like there's just so many little things that you need to do, right? Like get a turkey and kids presents and wrap them and all that kind of stuff. But I think I've realized too that like to minimalize my life a little bit so that I can deal with it. Because when you feel overwhelmed, you're not present for the things you're supposed to be present for. You're just like running through the motions of I have to do this and I have to do this and I have to do this, and you're not enjoying things. So I'm not feeling like super stressed. I haven't even started my Christmas shopping, like even one gift at all. So I'm just like going to go and just do it slowly. Like I'm just not going to stress myself out. So I think for most people, it's the travel, it's the gifts, it's committing to so many things. Me and my brothers and sisters used to give each other gifts, and now we don't do that anymore, because literally you're like spending $50 on one person and they're spending it on you, but you get things that you don't even really want. And I think like it's just silly things, right, that we did, and it was so stressful. I'm like, why am I doing this? So we've just kind of minimized things now and changed a little bit in those ways. So I think then I can be a little bit more present for things.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I remember when, because my husband and I, we were the first ones to have grandkids, and when Brittany was little, we would sometimes have 5 or 6 Christmases in 2 to 3 days.
Right.
It's like so we were doubling up.
Yeah.
And it was exhausting. And as you said, like, we didn't have to travel 4 hours. We weren't spending nights at other people's houses, but still you're packing everything up. And it's a lot of work. And then anyways, when the kids are little, you're focusing on them, you're feeding them, making sure they're okay. And you're really not spending any time with the family. Now, obviously you outgrow that stage. But also to that same note, at that particular time, and for quite a while, for like my first 2 kids, again, like we were buying gifts literally for everybody. And it was just, it's a lot. It's overwhelming sometimes. And then you're like, are they going to like it? Or are they just going to have to take it back? Like, so yeah, so I totally get that. And I know too, like this is the first year I'm actually hosting a Christmas on my mom's side, which is nice. And but I know one thing over the last, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, I've really just learned to start letting things go.
Yeah.
Right? I used to get caught up in making sure everything was decorated and just getting caught up and making sure that I had enough food and that, that the gifts were the best gifts that I could find for whatever.
For every person.
Exactly. And it's yeah. I had to let that go.
I think and I love Christmas, and I love the
Same.
the atmosphere, and I love the meeting and the spirit of Christmas and all that stuff. But I think as you get older, you realize like how commercialized it is and all those things, and that we're really like missing out on actually spending time. I remember like before kids, it would be so nice to go to family's house because we'd actually sit and we'd actually relax and we'd actually like have time. But when you're trucking kids everywhere all over the place and stuff, it's not. So I think staying close to home for us, I think it's like better. And I think another thing is like not so much changing your schedule or changing it a lot, right? Whereas you put work aside, and I think and you take days off, and you don't you give yourself a couple of days where you're actually not going to work at all, not answering emails, you're not going to answer phone calls, you're not going to do anything, where you actually just sit down and enjoy and be
which people
present.
need to do. So yeah, I agree. Like I think it's sort of forgetting about the perfectionism and just doing what feels good. Sometimes I think I may have swung myself a little bit too far to the other side.
And then you're
right?
like,
and
how
you're
hard
like, I don't
getting
really
back.
care. They're like, whatever. There's going to be food on the table. It's fine. But yeah, not worrying so much about the house looking absolutely perfect before everybody comes in. And to that extreme, like trying to, or to that thought that you just had, like sticking to your normal routine as best as possible is huge. I think once you start deviating off of that, especially for like 2, 3, 4, maybe even a whole week, that in and of itself is a stress on you mentally and physically, because even if your routine is literally just getting up, having your coffee, getting dressed, going to work and coming home, even if that is your routine, trying to stick to that as close as possible, I think is also super key as we go through this. And no matter, like I have worked out, and if a workout day falls on an actual Christmas day, obviously the gyms are closed, I would work out at home because that was a normal training day for me, and that's what my body was used to. And I know something too with my family, we tend to go out for walks between dinner and all the desserts coming out.
Yeah.
And getting some fresh air. If it's sunny out, then that's an added bonus, right? But just getting some fresh air. And one thing that I've learned too is that going for walks after dinner not only helps with your digestion, so then you don't feel quite so like a beached whale if you've overdone it on the turkey and stuffing and potatoes and everything else. But the nature of walking is actually soothing for the mind because it's a very rhythmic pattern and it calms the mind. And that's just sort of another bonus, another added bonus to just getting out for a short walk.
Oh yeah, I feel like and I've talked about this before, is that I cut out all HIIT training that I do at all, and I walk for an hour twice a week, 45 minutes to an hour twice a week on the incline on the gym, and it's so much better for my mind and my body. And my physio, actually, he's like super knowledgeable, and yesterday I was there and I was telling him about it, and he was like, you actually can grow the size of your heart, like you can increase the size of your heart and the capacity of it by doing cardiovascular work that your heart stays under 120 beats per minute. So I'm at about like 105, 110, I think, when I'm walking. But it's so much, there's so many, yes, cardiovascular HIIT training can do other things for your heart and your body, but steady state walking just normally can like increase the size of your heart, the muscles in your heart. So it makes it's so needed. And walking is like, especially if you're like overwhelmed with all your kids at home and there's so many people in your house and you're overwhelmed with it going on during the holidays, getting outside to like take a break, take a walk, like walk it out. If there's that one nagging person that drives you crazy at Christmas, then just go for a walk, like get outside, take a breather, take a break. Don't commit to like staying somewhere for 5 hours if you know that it's going to be really stressful for you. Like just go for an hour, visit people, and then go home, and don't feel like you have to like stay.
Don't feel obligated.
Don't feel obligated like to do and to say all the Christmas parties and all the things you get invited to, don't feel obligated to say yes to them. Like if you can't go and you don't want to go, then don't. Like it's like this people pleasing thing that we get into where we're like, I have to go. But you're at a detriment to yourself. Or that
whole thing too of like trying to keep up with everybody else, right? Well, everybody else is going, so I need to go.
And we don't.
No.
I think I've worked out so many times on Christmas Day, and my family thought I was crazy. And I would bring my bands, I'd bring my ball, I would bring dumbbells with me. I'd work out in my in-laws' basement. But like I just would do it. I would do something because it was important to me and it made me feel better and it started off my day. And it's funny how people like I was talking about the other day, there's people that like can hardly even get to the gym because they're so unmotivated, and then there's us who like it's hard for me to not go. It's hard for me to not go because that is just, it's part of my day. It's part of my routine. It's part of my life. It's just part of me. So it's ingrained. So wherever we go like to Disney, Christmas, vacations. I'm always working out. I'm always finding gyms. I'm always finding a way to move. Because that's just, for me, that's needed. If it's like Christmas Day or something and like, I don't know, the kids were like super, I don't know, whatever we had planned and I couldn't, it wouldn't be like the end of the world to take it off either. Like, it's not like I'm going to be, crushed. I'll just get back to my training the next day. But sticking to the routine as much as you can. And just because you work out, just because it's like a vacation or holidays doesn't mean it's like a weekend. You don't just throw all your progress down the drain because it's a weekend or a holiday.
No, totally agree. And one thing that I've definitely noticed, over the years working with clients, and I'm sure you've had the same thing, is that as soon as people start feeling overwhelmed with commitments that they have, the first thing that goes is their fitness. When unfortunately that's the first thing that needs to stay in order to keep you mentally and physically sound. That's what and the thing is that the routine doesn't have to necessarily look exactly the same. So if you're accustomed to maybe working out 4 or 5 days a week, you may need to cut it back to like 1 or 2. But at least you still have that routine and habit going. That's the key, rather than just throwing it off to the wayside and say, fingers crossed, hopefully I get back to it after this settles down. When after you get out of that routine for so long, it's hard to get back into moving your body regularly, paying attention to what you're eating.
Because even COVID, I heard so many people, they just took off the 2 years and now they're struggling to get back because breaking that habit for 2 years, now you have a whole different lifestyle and habit. So you're like almost starting from the beginning in implementing those habits back in.
Totally. Yeah, and that takes time again. It took you 2 years to get out of it. You need to give yourself 2 years to almost get back to where you were. It may take less time, but if you mentally prepare yourself that, you know what, I let things go for these 2 years, I'm going to need to give myself 2 years to get back or better than where I was. And people have a hard time with that time frame, right?
They want everything now.
Well, that's exactly it. That's what we've talked about before, right? People want these microwave Amazon Prime delivery results when health and fitness, unfortunately, is a crock pot meal. It takes time, right? So
it takes time and commitment and dedication, and on the days that you think you're not making progress, on the days that you think you're doing nothing, you actually are. It's all the little tiny pieces that add up to that eventually one day you'll wake up and be like, oh my God. It's always like, whatever that quote is, like you'll be happy in 6 months or whatever that you started today, but it's like these little tiny micro habits that change every single day, and you are making progress every single day, even if the scale doesn't say it, even if your measurements don't say it, because it's always, clients always give up when they're not seeing results fast enough. And I'm like, this is the time you need to stay the most, because I'm telling you, in 2 weeks from now, you're going to go over this hump and you're going to start seeing results, but you never make it that far because you just give up on those little tiny things. So I think staying during the holidays, it's like, make sure, like my water bottle, I'm going to have this with me and I'm going to drink 2 of them a day, and I'm going to make sure that I do that. So staying on top of my water, staying on top of my workouts, trying to get sleep as much as you can, right? And on the holidays, maybe you go to bed late, but then kind of hopefully you can sleep in or nap, like have a nap during the day, right? I don't know if I can nap, but if nobody was in the house and I put a movie on, I think I could nap, but it would have to be like perfect conditions. Perfect conditions for me to be able to do that.
Yeah. And I think too, sometimes some family traditions that have been around for decades, maybe traditions that no longer serve you. So, that also may be something that you'll have to start learning to navigate or making some suggestions on for changes, right? So if say for example, on Christmas Eve, you always order in whatever, pizza, wings, you name it, doesn't matter. And you're like, and you're just like, I don't know if I want that anymore this year. Make a suggestion that something else gets brought in. And if that gets, turned down, there's no reason why you can't bring whatever it is that you want to eat. Right? So I think that's another thing too, is being okay on letting maybe certain family food traditions go, so that your digestive system is happy at the end of it.
Yeah, and I think when it comes down to eating, I think eating is the biggest thing around the holidays, right?
Absolutely.
So I was reading an article on emotional eating and overwhelming eating. Ooh. So those are, which I was like, oh my God, that's so profound. Because I was like, wow. Because I was like, sometimes when I'm eating that extra peanut butter, or when I'm eating an extra thing while I'm cooking the kids' dinner, or when I'm whatever right now, when I'm not being so strict, I'm like, then I thought about to myself, am I doing it because I'm emotionally, something's bothering me emotionally? For me, it's overwhelm. Yeah. Because I'm overwhelmed and I'm just like, I'm not thinking, and I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to eat this and I'm just going to eat this. So
more mindless.
Yeah. So it's like this overwhelming feeling that you just aren't really like,
so is it like a soothing mechanism?
Probably. So I think when you come to the holidays, you have to think to yourself, what do I feel right now? Why do I want to eat that right now? Why am I like, and for sure staying, I think I see at the holidays is people overeat. And then they get up and they're like, I'm just not going to eat anything all day because I'm going to have this huge dinner. But make sure, like, here's the thing is, get up and have your breakfast, have your little Greek yogurt and nuts and fruit snack, have a lunch.
Stick with your routine.
Stick with the foods, because the thing is you're going to eat less at dinner because you've eaten during the day. Your body's also not going to store all the food that it eats at night because it didn't starve all day, and then all of a sudden be like, I'm getting food, I'm going to store all this. So yeah, sticking with making sure that you're eating, making sure meals are still prepped, and that you're not just like getting overwhelmed with all the things you're supposed to do and then you just forget to eat. Like, my life has been super crazy lately, but I'm like, I am not letting this get me. So even if I have nothing prepped in the house, I get a shake, I weigh my almonds, and I grab an apple, and then I'm like, okay, there is a snack. But I'm like, I am not letting this get me down. I'm not going to start grabbing for foods that are not going to serve my workouts. Because here's another thing, is that you take an hour out of your day. So if that's an hour away from your family, an hour away from your kids, an hour away from napping, sleeping, like, why waste that hour to then eat 5 cookies to take away all the progress that you put a whole hour in? Yeah. So like,
no, it's an awesome way to look at it.
Give yourself, like, your body, like, that the reward is that you're gonna start seeing progress because you love your body enough to be like, I don't need that. Because why waste an hour? I used to work out in college and university all the time. Like, I would be the one that would get up and I'd work out.
Same.
But every weekend we drank. Like, we lived in Toronto, so every weekend we drank to like,
out.
Hung over in the morning. At 3 o'clock in the morning, you'd go get pizza or something for sure. Like, but I'd work out every day. But I never had the body that I wanted because I was constantly working out, but then feeding it, working out. And it was like this cycle. I wasn't overweight. I didn't look bad. Like, I looked fit and okay, but I never saw the exact results that I could see until I really started honing in on my nutrition. So it's like why put in all that hour of work or 4 hours of work or 6 hours of work a week and then ruin it for like stupid food. Like, we let food control us. So it's like,
and then you feel guilty for doing that.
and then you feel guilty, and then you feel shitty about yourself, and then you just eat more chocolate anyways.
Yeah, so it's just and that's the vicious cycle.
Well, screw up, my jeans don't feel good anyway, so I'm just gonna eat more peanut butter because that's how we find comfort, right?
Yeah, totally.
Is in food.
Yeah.
So much in food. So we have to try to find comfort in other things, which is very, very difficult.
Agreed.
It's super difficult because as you're coming back out of a show and dieting now, you're realizing like,
oh, it's hard.
It's super.
It's easier to go down the rabbit hole than it is to get back out of it. 100%, right?
Now you're like, I'm so hungry and I want to eat all this stuff. Yeah. And you don't necessarily have the specific, huge, have to reason why you can't have more peanut butter. Right? So you're just, you have to like really, it's like a mental battle.
It is. But I do like how you just framed it. Like, why would you spend all this time training so that you can build muscle, so that you can lose body fat or whatever the case might be, only to overeat on something that is not going to serve you in the long term, right? So whether that is a handful of crackers and cheese, whether that is the cookies, whether that is whatever, your nut butter, it could be anything, right? It could be your fancy sugary drinks from Starbucks. So yeah, I like the way that you frame that.
I have to think of it that way because mom guilt, for everybody else that feels me, I feel guilty when I'm at the gym all the time. I don't know why.
I've never felt guilty for that.
Ever. I don't even, I need to be in your head because every time I leave the house, every time I'm like not with my kids, it's like, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be here. I'm doing something for myself. And I think it's because when I grew up, my mom did everything for us, right? So, I guess I just felt like I need to be present all the time. I need to be here all the time. I need like, so mom guilt for me, first of all, when I get to the gym, which I'm working on, but then why am I'm going to feel guilty when I go to the gym for the hour. And then I'm also going to come home and then not see the results that I want for the hour that I'm feeling guilty for anyway. So it's like, if I'm going to feel guilty, I might as well come home and see the results that I want and actually like really use my time wisely, right? Yeah. Because
totally,
like, why take that time away from my kids that I feel like I should be with them, even though I know it's fine. But yeah, why would I do that and then come home and then still not look the way that I want to look when I'm spending all that time away from my house? So for me, I really had to think, no, like, this is important. Like, you have to, if you really want to see the results that you want, because I've done it the other way before, right? Eating whatever you want, work out. Eating whatever you want, work out. But then I never really was where I wanted to be until I actually really loved my body and myself enough to say, these things aren't going to make me happy. Like, the cake's not going to make me happy. Spending time with my kids and being present and watching my family open up gifts and, laughing with my family. Those things are the things that matter. Not I eat the cake because they do and that makes them feel better. I know my family struggled a long time for me bringing my own stuff, not eating the same stuff that they were. But that was mostly, I think, because they wanted to have that willpower to be able to do it too.
Yeah.
They're like, I want to too, because nobody eats a Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving dinner and feels good about themselves after. Like, do you know what I mean? Like when you stuff yourself.
But you can, right? Like, so I had to go through, like, Thanksgiving was only 4 weeks out from my show.
Yeah.
Right? So my coach allowed me to have Thanksgiving dinner. But like for me, I'm like, you know what? I'm not having the potatoes. I'm not having the stuffing. I'm not having the dessert. I'm going to have the turkey. I'm going to have the vegetables and not worry about how they were prepared.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
There's always like nuts out. So I'm like a nut-aholic. You know this. So I probably ate, I don't know, I guess I told my coach jokingly, but who really knows, like 1,000 calories probably in cashews. Yeah. And that was amazing.
Right.
And I didn't feel guilty about it. I didn't feel bad about it because I knew the next meal we were right back on track. It didn't really matter. Right. So, but for a lot of people, that's the start of a slippery slope. And as we go through Thanksgiving, and now we're into Christmas parties before actual Christmas, and then we have New Year's, right? There's a lot that's happening in a very short period of time, and then you've only got 4 months, and now you're into Easter. And then we're into the summer long weekend. So really, there's never a good time. And I'll tell people sometimes the best time to start honing in on your nutrition is when you are the busiest.
And during the holidays, right? Because then you're actually, it's really hard because people will be like, I'm not starting a diet in the beginning of December. This is the best time to start because there's always going to be a holiday. There's always going to be a birthday. There's always going to be a dinner. There's always going to be something. Like life is just like that.
So learn to navigate it now.
Learn to navigate it now. There is ways, like clients will send me, I'm going to this restaurant. What do you think I should have on this menu? And I'll look through it and help them learn. Okay, which thing would be best to choose? What's okay? What's not? Are you at a good place where you could eat that and then not go later and then... Because once people eat something they want, and then it's like, oh my God, and then they just go.
They just can't stop.
And they just can't stop. So it's like, are you ready to like have an open meal that it's at a restaurant that's really filling and stuff, but then say, okay, I'm done, and then move on? And again, I think that really comes down to, if I'm putting all this work into the gym, why am I going to like screw myself? You're sabotaging yourself. You're just going to like... why do that to yourself? So I think if you want to see results from all your hard work, around the holidays is like keep a routine. Don't worry about perfect. Just keep thinking about progress. That one baby step, that one small foot in front of the other. Steps.
Eat
meals, drink water.
Get walks in. And not being afraid of challenging or suggesting changes in maybe some family traditions.
And another one, I think, last one for gym goers, is it's okay to take time off.
Yes, if you're a hardcore gym person, then yes, I think it is okay to take the time off. You can still go out for walks with your family. Go for a walk with your family. That's awesome. That's great. That's still like time together, and that's like active time together. Because
around a holiday, I'm like, oh my gosh, don't say you don't have time to meal prep, because around holidays we're off. Like, people are busy, I get that too. But we also don't have work, and we don't have all the other stuff that we're doing. So sometimes holidays, I think, is like a time to catch up, and a time to like prep things, and a time to, if for me, like, get in workouts and not have to really stress about a time, right?
And if you're hosting, bonus, right? You're gonna have the leftover turkey. You're gonna have the leftover vegetables. Like, you've got meals now already ready to rock and roll for like the next 2, 3, 4 days.
And another thing, if you're hosting, don't be scared to ask people to bring something. Like, you make the turkey and you make the stuffing, and then everybody else brings something. Because why would we leave it up to one person to make this whole entire beautiful meal for us when, like, everybody can bring something, and it's part of community. It's part of like family.
And you can suggest what people bring.
Or I tell them. Like,
no, it's same. Right? Like, I always make sure that there's always like a salad. There's always like a hot green vegetable. Again, I can't get away from the potatoes and stuffing. Like that has to be there.
You have to do the stuffing.
Yeah, I gotta do that.
Not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, or if I do a squash, then I just make sure I make it the way that I want it made.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Because that way then I can have the leftovers. So, you know, things can be made without tons and tons of butter and tons of oil and all that stuff and still taste just as good. But better for you in the long run.
Yeah, but I think the biggest thing is going in with a plan. Go
100%.
in with your plan. Don't go in free flowing.
Yeah.
Because
and if you need help coming up with the
Right.
plan, like reach out to us on social media. Like we're here to help. Like if you're not too sure how to navigate this and you're trying to make some changes, reach out. Yeah. And we'll give you some suggestions. I think that's the perfect place to end.
Awesome.
All right. So here's to a stress-free holiday. Thanks everybody for listening today, and we truly appreciate you. And let us know what your biggest takeaway was today, and if you have any questions you want answered on the podcast. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast to automatically receive your episodes and to help us reach more listeners. We would love to connect with you on our socials, either Facebook or Instagram, with links in the show notes. Till next time, keep taking those small steps towards your best life.